time's up. So now we will start the second round. Please, affirmative, constructive, you have 6 minutes. Time start counting.
Hello everyone, so we're Team Colgate and we're here to argue that boarding school system is beneficial to children. So first of all, let me explain what is boarding school system. So it's basically a high school for immigrant students from many different cultures and countries came to the boarding school and study there. And also, in the boarding school system, there are dormitory for the students that live far away from home to stay. So what is the positive things about boarding school system and how does it benefit to the children or the students? So first of all, it's more independent from parents. So what do I mean by independence here is homework, chores, and transportation. So usually at home, students do their homework, and when they're struggling, they have to ask their parents. But if they study in boarding school, they live far away from their parents, and then they have to research by themselves, which help them for the future and gain more experience. That's why technology was born, and then they can search information by themselves to finish their own homework. About chores, they have to do their own chores, not at home. They have to ask their parents to fold their clothes, wash their dishes, do all the housework for them. But if they live in the dorm or in boarding school, they will do all by themselves, which really help for the future life. And for transportation, they have to use buses to travel around where they want to go. Therefore, future life is easier and faster and more efficient. So, as I was saying that the boarding school system is for immigrant students from many other cultures and countries. That's why we need well-trained teachers and teachers that are highly professional and cooperative. So, according to the 70% of the students had developed their self-discipline, maturity, independence, and ability to critical thinking from studying in boarding school. So all the teachers will give their all proper care and concentration on every student because they live far away from home. They will treat them right and help them prepare for future life. Also, compared to public and private school, as I said, that 70% have to develop their discipline, maturity, independence, ability to critical thinking. Public school only have 23% and private school only have 36%. There's a school which I really recommend is EF Academy New York boarding school. 80% of students have studied there. 80% of them are really prepared for college, and overall 90% of them who are studying in that school reported that this boarding school is good and really beneficial to children. Thank you.
Thank you. And now 3 minutes for negative cross-examination.
Well, you say that 70% of the student in boarding school develop the maturity. And I want to ask, what happened to the other 30%?
The other 30%, they might not that as developed as the other 70%, but they will eventually they will start to involve in the culture student around them, so they can start getting better, improve their maturity, self-discipline, and independence.
I think that students in other school like public, normal public or private school could also develop their independence. And you say that there are chores that they have to do at home. And I think that for someone, I want to ask that if you are not in boarding school, and so you are you still independent enough to do the course and manage your money?
So at home, I swear to God that you don't always do your chores, right? Your mother and your dad always do it for you, right? But sometimes you did it by yourself, right? But not always, but mostly. So in the boarding school system, they create an environment for them to do their chores by themselves. Gain experience for the future life, so it's easier and more efficient.
Thank you. Now 6 minutes for negative constructive.
Firstly, parents are role models and they are natural support to children. If the children are separated from them for long periods of time, this may damage their relationships and leave the child feeling anxious, alone, or maybe even depressed. Therefore, it creates homesick and they cannot concentrate on their schoolwork. Secondly, being in school all the time restricts the circle of people you come into contact with. Extracurricular activities organized by the school will largely be with peers rather than the whole range of the community, as might be the case with local choirs. Thirdly, living with peers all the time, so the friendships and relationships between peers are governed by the rules of the school and therefore do not always reflect real life. Pupils at the school may be drawn from only one gender or religion and will certainly be drawn from the wealthier social classes because of the high fees charged by all boarding school. This leads to our fourth point, which is the school fees in boarding schools is more likely to be more expensive than day school. So not all people of all class can study there. There are boarding schools with specialized interests. So in those kind of schools, it can lead to an over-concentration on one area or style of curriculum to neglect all others. It can harm all the breadth of opportunity available at a local level, compelling those interested in a particular discipline to become boarders when they would have preferred not to.
Thank you. Now 3 minutes for affirmative cross-examination.
I would like to ask you a question. How would being far from home and studying in boarding school damage the kid's relationship with his or her parents?
Well, for instance, there are occasions when their families go to create memories, and they are not in it. They will feel left out, and therefore it will make them become depressed because they are not in a part of their family memories.
Well, can you give me an evidence about it? Because I'm pretty sure the boarding schools still allow students to be absent to join their families.
Well, there are some periods of time when the students from boarding schools cannot go home, but their families still create memories. So during that time, next question, please.
Due to recent researches, children are discovered to become more and more independent to work their family. And I'm pretty sure that while leaving one occasion of creating memories will not destroy their relationship with each other.
So what's your question?
And boarding school also gives people, students, opportunity to come home when there's a special holiday, so they can still create memories with their families. So, can you explain this again, please?
Can you repeat the question?
Time's up. Thank you. Now 5 minutes for affirmative rebuttal.
Okay, so
I'm from Team Affirmative. I'm going to do the rebuttal.
So, firstly, you guys say that the cost in boarding schools are too high and may be quite unaffordable for some the families. However, in boarding schools, they provide a lot of extracurriculars. And why do they do that? Because they want their students to gain experience for future lives. For example, when you do projects with your, when you do projects or do some sports activities, you can gain experience in leadership or organization and teamwork, which are all very soft skills and is beneficial for your future life. And it is easier for you to become a leader. And also, you say that homesick might distract you, right? However, in boarding schools, teachers are trained to solve this problem. Although there might be some students in boarding schools come from other cultures, they might be hit by culture shock. However, teachers in boarding schools are specially trained to solve this problem. They might become the student's own counselor. So they will help the student to understand the culture they're living and prepare for the next years and for university. And well, I think that's all.
Thank you. Now 3 minutes for negative cross-examination.
I think that, do you think that in other normal public school or private school, do they still interact with their friends and doing projects like in boarding school, other school?
Well, in our opinion, a boarding school is a group. A boarding school is a group of multicultural children, right? So they get to communicate with each other. They can learn from other cultures, and so they'll know more about the world. Knowledge is good, right? And so, actually, doing projects with children from doing projects and sporting activities with other cultures' children, it actually will actually help the students in the boarding school gain the fact that there are many more ideas around the world. Like people from other cultures may have other ideas when doing projects, right? And so they will learn how to be more objective in doing projects.
Do you think that when we do project in daily school, we can use the internet to find out the more ideas from all over the world?
However, using the internet is not that trustworthy, because when you hear right from the person, like face to face, from the person of that culture, it is much more easier to understand the culture itself. It's much more easier, and you can ask the questions freely, like, why does your culture think like this? Like, what are your practices that gives you this idea?
I think we don't need boarding school to like talk to others from other country, because we have a kind of video chat on internet. Do you think that is?
However, video chat is not always available. It can be very limited. If the school, what if one day the shark just bite the wires, then you have no internet to talk to those to the other cultural children, right? Other cultural children, right? And so it limits your opportunity.
Time is up. Thank you. Now time for narrative rebuttal. You have 5 minutes.
So, in your previous talks, I heard that you mentioned about experience and independence that students in boarding school will earn. But you see, during daily life, when they interact with their parents, their friends from daily school, from day school, and their teachers, well, they also learn to do this. Throughout the course of life, children, while parents are mostly regarded as the best educators, and during this time, they will teach the students how to be independent. Okay, so if you want an evidence, you can look into this room. All of the adults here, they are educated. They go, not all of the adults, but they are educated and they go to day school. Maybe the foreigners can go to boarding school, because I'm not sure. But all the adults in this room, maybe except the foreigners, go to day school. And they have independence, yes. They have experience, yes. Enough to earn a living. Enough to teach their kids and children how to live their life. And they have enough basic skills. Enough that they can live and then pass it to their kids. So that's all for now, I guess.
Thank you. Now 3 minutes for affirmative cross-examination.
So Bill Gates, for example, and Albert Einstein, all those genius, they start to live independently since they were young, they were really young. So, and they're one of the most like clever and genius in the world. So why do we need to gain experience from our parents? Instead, we can gain experience since we were young in the boarding school system.
So you said you only give 2 examples of those who are independent since they're young. But you haven't mentioned those who are still dependent and they're still geniuses. And they're still the ones who are successful in the world. Maybe I'll mention Mark Zuckerberg, the person who created Facebook. He's not entirely independent when he was young.
So you only use one example. What about other people?
Okay, so how we answer you is that we give another example, and that we are proving that your statement doesn't apply to all.
Can you give? you said that parents is a good way to teach their children to be independent, right? But in boarding school, they have highly well-trained teachers and very professional teachers to teach the students, because all the students come from other cultures, other countries. They might not, follow the people in one culture. So that's why we need good teachers to teach them and teach them to be more independent.
But if I say that all the parents here, they know they can educate their kids to become independent. Thank you. Now 5 minutes for affirmative rebuttal and closing remarks.
So, good evening. I'm the third speaker of the affirmative team, and would like to start with some rebuttal of the negative team. Although they make many strong points, I would like to point out what few points I disagree with. For example, the negative team did mention that in day school they can also interact with others, interact with their parents, interact with their teachers, and interact with their friends. However, in boarding school, students have the chance to live in their school for a whole week. So it increases the chance for them to interact with their teachers and students. And moreover, they can also interact with students from foreign countries, and it will help them to gain experiences for the future life when they have to work with all kinds of people, from all cultures, all countries, all backgrounds. And you did mention that in day school they can also learn how to become independent. Yes, I agree that in day school people still have the chance to learn how to become independent. However, in boarding school, as I say, they live all day in the school, so it offers them the best chance and increases the opportunity for them to learn how to independence, for teachers to guide them, to help them. And you did use an example as the adults in the room. However, this is a new word from the word 20 years before. This is a new generation. You can't just compare the old generation to the new one. It's a new word. We're leading to globalization, and working in a boarding school and studying in a boarding school with multicultural students and teachers will help them to have skills for their future. And in the end, I would like to summarize our points. Boarding school will help us to become more independent and gain soft skills and experiences for us to lead to our future life. And I conclude that this motion must stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now 5 minutes for negative rebuttal and closing remarks.
Well, our rebuttal is that if they live all week in the school, they will have less interact with their parents, and that will have less interaction with their parents, and that would make the relationship between them and their family members worse. And if you study in not study in a boarding school, but study in a normal school, you could balance the interaction between teachers and friends and family. And in normal school, teachers is also specially trained to help the students to do the best. And our generation's education is developing, so